to the ground. Really,
You know, in 1957, the period time we're talking about is when the Cold War was probably still not at its peak as far as heat, but it certainly was getting near the top, and the B-58 was a method of delivering a nuclear bomb to a target with some pretty good degree or probability of getting a crew home and getting the airplane home and a crew home. Because if you only have a certain amount of assets, you'd like to get them back and use them again, and so the B-58 was that kind of an airplane. It had an air refueling system in it, and its use in the Air Force was you'd cruise out with tankers and you'd get a tank load of fuel just before you accelerated to go in and make a run and to drop your bomb on the target it was going in, and it could get back to a safe harbor some way. It also had a low altitude capability that was pretty significant. It could fly low altitude at 9.2?
Yeah.
9.2 Mach, which was pretty fast. You had a 500 or 200 or 100 feet, however low these guys wanted to get, and get to the target that way too. So it had a high capability and a low capability, but its job was to get in and take care of the Russians.
The B-58 entered operational service with the Strategic Air Command on the 1st of August 1960. With its exceptional speed, power, and performance, the B-58 was a potent weapon, and as a member of the world's premier bomber fleet, the B-58's mission was clear.
It was optimized to do only one thing, and that was to fly fast and deliver a bomb to a target. And it accomplished that mission objective.
In addition to its remarkable high-altitude capability, the B-58 was perhaps even more effective because of its low-altitude performance. To fully explore the potential of the B-58 as a low-altitude bomber, a SAC crew took off from Carswell Air Force Base with an unprecedented assignment. They were to fly their B-58, nicknamed Little Joe, to Edwards Air Force Base on a mock bombing run at an altitude of 500 feet. For this mission to be a success, both the crew and the airplane had to be at peak performance. This mock bombing mission was to test the plane's ability to hug the terrain, fly under radar, and deliver its target at high speed. Flying at close to the speed of sound, never more than 500 feet off the ground, is a demanding task for both the crew and the airplane. The low-altitude capability was one of the characteristics which made the B-58 an extraordinary airplane, and this attribute is a direct result of the airplane's delta wing design. The stability of the delta wing allows the airplane to be flown at high speed at low altitudes, something the more conventional straight wing or swept wing designs are unable to handle. Flying at 0.92 Mach, the Hustler streaks overhead with only a limited warning of its impending arrival. The speed of the B-58 at such a low altitude means the airplane is essentially traveling with its own sound, and as a result, it can only be heard when it's virtually overhead. At one point during the flight, the pilot dropped the plane to 200 feet. After Little Joe reached the mock target, the pilot guided the airplane to a cruising altitude of 35,000 feet for a more comfortable and relaxed flight home to Texas. This mission proved that the B-58 and its crew could indeed be counted upon to perform this demanding task, if needed. The accuracy of the B-58 striking power was formally tested against 12 other bombers in a SAC combat competition. In a stunning display of high performance, the B-58 achieved the best score for both high and low altitude bombing. The B-58 entered the Strategic Air Command as the bomber of the future. But to the hardened military critics, its ability to perform its mission had to be constantly reaffirmed. SAC bombers spent much, if not most of their time sitting on runways, their crews waiting for the call they all hoped would never come. But if it did, they were ready in an instant. During several tests, SAC crews managed to get their airplanes in the air within 4 minutes, faster than any other bomber. The high speed and excellent maneuverability of the airplane made it unlikely that it could be intercepted or shot down, but precautions were taken against this possibility.
The B-58 was equipped with a defensive weapon system, which was a token gesture in the direction of, hey, we might be chased by enemy fighters and, and they may want to try and shoot us down, and we need some way to shoot back. So a decision was made to put what eventually became known as the MD-7. It was basically a M61 Gatling gun mounted in the tail cone of the airplane.
The powerful gun was mounted in a flexible turret and could be easily maneuvered. But there was one problem. At supersonic speeds, the airplane flew too fast for the gun to be of any practical use.
You really could not hit a target. The scenario was that the airplane was flying forward, the bullets were flying forward with the airplane, and in effect, if a guy was chasing you and at some distance, he could literally sit there and observe the bullets tapering off and falling and you know, going to the ground. They're literally running out of energy before they could hit a target.
I did not want to put a tail turret on the airplane at all, and it just didn't make sense, and that was one of the arguments that we used. And the other one, as you heard in some of your other interviews, is that what if anybody could approach the airplane anyhow? So, and I used to argue, if you put the tail turret on that airplane, you're darn well going to need the tail turret then.